Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Not Too Deep. I'm your host, Grace Helbig. We have a very exciting episode for you today. Comedian, actor, Scottish person, Daniel Sloss is here with us today. He is the smuggest person he knows, and now perhaps the smuggest person you know. We took a journey on his rise to fame as a young teenage boy interested in making his parents who conceived him on a houseboat laugh. That sentence will make sense once you listen to this week's episode. We also talk about how he got into knitting because of toxic masculinity, and how he's been handling the pandemic and the comedy shows that he has ahead of him. This is an extremely exciting and very, very funny episode of Not Too Deep. We also answer some of your submitted questions. We're talking about the struggles you have with college and potentially dropping out, and I don't even remember what the other one was. Something about life and important things for you guys. If you want to submit your questions, email us at nottoodeepwithgracehelbig@gmail.com, and perhaps myself and a future guest will be able to give you some completely perfect guidance on where you need to go. In the meantime, enjoy this episode of Not Too Deep with Daniel Sloss. Daniel Sloss, Scottish writer, actor, comedian, born in England, raised in Scotland. I could spend the rest of this episode just reading out your Wikipedia, but I won't. Thank you for being here.
Oh, you should read the rest of my Wikipedia. I can almost guarantee it was written by my mother.
Okay.
I'm almost certain of that.
Well, your mom has been a big proponent of your whole career, so it wouldn't surprise me there. Have you actually read through your Wikipedia at all? Is there anything that surprises you to learn about your life?
No, I do. I used to Google myself daily between the ages of 17 to 21. And then I just, at one point, I just stopped.
After 4 years of daily Googling, sometimes it's good to take a break.
Well, I think it sort of got to the point where I was becoming a little bit more well-known. So there was originally when I was Googling myself, it's because I was no one. So I was just trying to find out what the one person in the world was saying about me. And then I gradually got a little bit more known, and it was just so much more people, and they had more correct opinions. They're like, hey, he's not that great. I'm like, I don't need to read any of this. I don't need to. I'm tapping out on compliments only. I'm off.
It was wonderful when that one person really was my fan, and now people have discerning opinions. No, thank you.
Yeah,
throw the laptop out the door. Okay, you've been doing comedy for 10 years now? Over a decade?
Yeah, I think this will be if I'm 30 now, this will be my 13th year or 14th, yeah.
Wow. Okay, so take me through you starting with this, because the internet has told me that your parents are very science-minded people. So I can draw my own conclusions as to how that might end you up in comedy. But I'm curious from you how that happened.
My parents are genuinely funny people, legitimately humorous in their own rights.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And comedy's always been a big part of, just my family sort of dynamic. If you can make each other laugh, you get in trouble less.
Yeah, it's a love language. That's my family's same way.
Yeah, and you can be honest, and it's not. And it's just I've always known, and I've always been taught that it's a nice. Not only is it nice to laugh, it's nice to make other people laugh as well. And my parents, they met at Edinburgh University, and they moved down to London, and they lived on a houseboat, and there was a comedy club that they went to.
They lived on a houseboat?
Yeah.
Whoa, what a choice.
Not only what a choice, yes, but they conceived me on that houseboat, and they insist that I was not an accident. Right? They're like, we meant it. You were totally intentional. And I'm like, you meant to have me on a houseboat while you were both unemployed.
That's they filled in a Mad Lib sentence of where could we conceive and what will be the most ridiculous circumstances? Well, that's wonderful. So you were destined for greatness or for deep tragedy, it seems like.
Yes, ever since the beginning. So there was a comedy club very nearby to where they, moored or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And it was hosted every week by Eddie Izzard.
Okay.
This is back in the mid 80s.
Wow.
And then when Eddie Izzard couldn't do it, it was I think it was like Phil Dupuis, who's another really amazing comedian from the UK. So they loved comedy early on and always watched stand-up. So I kind of just grew up watching them watch stand-up. Like I remember once, because I loved making my parents laugh so much, there was like a Thursday night where I was in bed and then I heard my parents laughing downstairs and they were really laughing. And I was
you're like, who did this to them?
Yes. Like I have to know who's making my family laugh that much. So I'm like 8 or 9. I pretend to be sick. I'm like, oh, I've got a sore tummy. Oh, I can't sleep. Oh, I'm so, woe is me. Oh, can I please not sleep? Can I please lie on your tummy and watch the telly with you? And my dad's like, yeah, sure. So I go in and I'm lying on his belly, and they're watching Jack D, who's a British comic who is one of the all-time critics over here. And they were dying laughing at him. Now, I don't remember a single joke he told, but I remember he said fuck a lot. Yeah. And I thought that was the funniest thing in the entire world. I was like, I didn't know that was a job. I'm like, there's a job where you just get to stand in front of a room full of strangers and you just get to say fuck, piss and shit, and they'll clap. And I was like, that's the dream right there.
All the light bulbs went off. That's the job for you. I love it. Yeah. You went downstairs like your family was being murdered, and in a way of protecting them, you had to go see who was doing this to them.
It wasn't. It was jealousy of something that they were laughing so hard. I needed to find out what was this? I don't know, art form. What was this craft that made them laugh? And then I just sort of. I stumbled into it later on in life. I did a lot of stage act.
It seems like you might have done like middle school first. And then...
I did. Yes. Yeah. I did that, high school. But I did start when I was in high school.
Okay.
And I was in like I come from a very small part of Scotland. Scotland's small anyway, but I come from a really small part.
Okay.
Called Fife, and I was in the newspaper because I was like a 16, 17-year-old comedian, and it was like all the local press. So I was just like a very like a Z-list celebrity in my own school. Like it was the only time, it was the first time anyone. That's
wonderful. And that's all it takes. Okay, so you start doing it as a teenager, and then you kind of blow up. Is that true? Like, how did it go from this is my fun like teenage hobby to now I'm in the comedy world, I'm getting gigs and people are like taking me seriously?
Oh, well, so the thing is, like, I've made it on like 12 different occasions, and none of that, and then every time I'm like, is this it? Is this the one?
This is the one? No, it's not. All right.
Yeah, because like I started doing well in Scotland, and I was like, hey, I'm a success in Scotland, and then you're like, oh, it's, I'm very proud of my country and I love it, but there's the rest of the world. Then I had to do England, and then I had to do Europe. And then I had to do, Australia, and then eventually come over to America. So I did some television when I was about 18, 19 in the UK. Okay. And it was good. Like I got a lot of exposure from it, and I did really well. But then because it was TV stuff, I had to do like my friendliest material. Like it was, you couldn't swear, you couldn't talk about lewd acts or whatever. So I then start getting an audience who are coming to see like this really family friendly version of me. They're like, I saw you on telly and you told nice stories about your mum. And then
tell my son how much it is fun to love your mum.
And he can learn from you. And then they bring their son to the show, and I'm like, God's not real and drugs are great. And they're like, this isn't what you said on television. So there was a period where I decided that I didn't want to do certain bits of TV in the UK. I just wanted to really focus on my stand-up and get better at it, because I felt like I was getting too much success for very little talent. I was like, I need to get way better. If I'm getting this much exposure, I need to be way better than this. Wow.
So you were like your own manager. Like you built yourself up and knocked yourself down a peg all at the same time.
Gotta do it. Keep yourself, think you're the greatest in the world, and then also remind yourself that you are nothing but flesh and bones.
Exactly.
Keep yourself
from
humble.
dust to dust. There you go. Well, that's hilarious and wonderful. And so your parents have been along with you for this ride, it seems like.
Well, they've been very supportive since the start. Like when I wanted to start doing it in high school, and I said to them I want to be a stand-up comedian, both of them were like, great, that's cool as fuck, that's awesome.
We're so bored with science, please do something interesting.
Yeah, they're like, that's so fun. But they were like, but you do have to get into university. Like, you can do stand-up, but you absolutely have to focus on your studies, and you have to get into university, just because if it doesn't work out, not that we're saying, they're very liberal and supportive. They're like, not that it won't work out, but if it doesn't, it's always best and have a degree, but we'll love you regardless.
Yeah.
Like in the world of comedy, I have the most disgustingly supportive parents in the world. Like, it's very well known in the UK circuit that my parents are. She adopts other comedians as well, looks after them. They're great.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of a handicap that you can't just blame any issues you have on terrible parents.
I've got all of my failings are of my own doing. It's, all they did was love me, and I still turned out fucked up.
How? Okay, so you've done all of these specials. You've been on TV. You've turned 30 in the global pandemic.
Yes.
I have many questions about it. First of all, how has this year been for you? Because it seems like you were touring and writing and producing things, and then obviously shit happens. So have you felt yourself like consciously make any pivots? Have you felt yourself just like wallow at home? Or, I mean, because you're getting ready to go back on tour again. Like, you're starting up, stuff selling out, and you're like going. Have you spent this year like writing new material? Have you spent this year reflecting on everything?
The latter, the laziest of the one. Yeah, reflecting. I wrote I did a big tour from 2018 to 2019. It was like 18 months.
Wow.
And it was 300 shows, and it was finally done. And it like took a lot. Like, I lost my mind. Like, it was way too much work, and I didn't.
That's exhausting just to hear about.
Yeah, and I didn't do it professionally. Like, people were like, you should drink water every day and like exercise and maybe meditate. And I'm like, I'll tell you what's going to happen. I'm going to
live forever.
Yes. So I'm drinking like an idiot. I'm eating poorly. So I was just in a bad state. So I wrote a new show last year, and then in January and February brought it over to America just to like preview it, to test it out. And then it was ready, and I was ready to tour it again. And then the pandemic kicked in, and I was like, oh great, like I've got like forced timed off. Like, this will be, I've been on the road for 18 months. I had a month off, but like, maybe this will be good for me. And then it was not good for me.
Having some time to yourself is a blessing, and then having more time to yourself, you're like, I've done all the reflecting I care to do. I don't want to do therapy. So you're just going to force me to live in this vibrating kind of anxious state. Wonderful.
Yeah, well, I just have to sort of constantly reassess what I do, because, for so much of my adult, in fact, for all of my adult life, I've mined all of my self-worth from the approval and love of strangers.
Which, is something that will always work for your self-worth from now until the end of your days.
Yeah. Until there's a fucking pandemic and there's no audiences anymore. And I'm just suddenly there going, oh God, I never really learned how to do this myself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think like most, I lost my mind, I'd say twice over the course of the year. And then found it again.
That's a good number. Yeah, it's single digits. That's good. So a lot of other people can't say that.
We came close a couple of other times, but I mean, there were two occasions where I just steered into the car crash. I'm like, let's see where this goes.
Yeah, I'm gonna let not Jesus, but someone take the wheel right now. So getting ready to tour again. Do you do it? Are you like warming yourself back up? Are you like doing test audiences? How do you prep for this? Are you just like, I'm going to throw myself to the wolves when the time comes and see what happens?
Yeah, that's how much I miss stand-up, man. I miss my job.
Yeah.
I don't wanna prepare for it. I don't wanna. I mean, I know I should because people have paid money for a show, and there should be some, inkling of professionalism somewhere in this body. But I just, it's been so long. I mean, I was lucky enough that I got to do some shows in like November last year as well, but not, those were socially distant shows, which are still great, but they're not what live comedy is.
Right.
And
my other question too is audience-wise, where is there a country that you're surprised that you have an audience in, or is there like a country that you're like, this is my people, I love performing here, or one that you might not?
So one of my favorite countries to perform in consistently is Austria. Is amazing. Like,
wow, really?
Yeah, the audiences there are to the point where I would film a special there.
Like,
they're really, really savvy. A lot of the Scandic countries as well, like Norway, Sweden, the shows there are, it's like being a rock star. They're riotous there.
Cool.
But one that shocked me, I was not expecting, was Russia.
Really?
My agent asked me in like 2018, she was like, do you want to do a gig in Russia? And I was like, no. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, they don't speak English, and if they do speak English, they don't understand Scottish English. Like, it's not like going to France. Like, they have a different alphabet there. It's such a different language. They're not going to get it, and they're all evil. I've watched the news. They're all bastards, and
the news tells us exactly how it is everywhere. And if there's one thing I know about the news, Russia doesn't want me there.
Exactly. Yeah. That was my dumb little illusion. And she convinced me to do it. And we went over. I was like, nobody's going to come. And then like 3,000 Russians turned up.
Wow.
Which is bigger than I do in Scotland. So I was like, we're like, what? Hold on.
Do they know what they bought tickets to?
No, well, yeah, they did, and they were like, "Oh, like it was a really, really good gig." Like I was like, they bought tickets to the wrong show. Like maybe Sloss means like porn in Russian, and they've like or like it's like a famous group of acrobats or something.
Right.
But no, they were all there for me, and it was. Yeah, it was great. So I'd really like to go. I'd really like to go back.
Wow, that's so cool and fascinating and strange all at the same time.
Yeah, like they had some of them were so fluent. Half of the audience were like so fluent that they could just listen to it in their second language and get it. And then I think some of them we had a translator who'd come to our shows in Germany to watch the show. So he was doing like really fast translating of my live stand-up, because like he watched the show before, so he knew where I was going to go. Okay. But I change it on a day-to-day basis depending on how drunk I am or bored I am. So he was just live translating. It was great. It was chaos. Sorry.
Oh no, that sounds absolutely wonderful. And I can't wait for you to go back to Russia this year. I can only imagine how interesting the welcome will be.
Yeah.
Okay, now you are someone that has called yourself the smuggest person I know. How do you translate the word smug?
Smug, like proud of yourself. It's beyond proud of yourself, but just under arrogance. But like enough into arrogance that you're still an arsehole.
Okay.
Like it's not you're a full-blown narcissist. If you're smug, you're like, hey, I know I'm great. And you're like, well, that's cool, but it's still dicky.
Right.
Like,
okay. So it's still being smug is confidence, but there is still a little bit available for people to take you down a peg, for people to take the piss out of you.
But smugness is a little bit, I've got this little bit over you sort of thing. So it's a little bit competitive. That's where the assholeness comes in, I think.
Got it. Okay. My other question, the one thing that's been getting me through quarantine hugely has been Taskmaster. Your thoughts on Taskmaster?
Oh, we're talking about the British Taskmaster.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
They tried an American one and they didn't get it.
I know.
I love Reggie Watts. I think Reggie Watts is incredible. I just think the American one missed what the show was.
I haven't even watched the American one because I can imagine what it is, and the British or UK one is so pure,
so good,
and they just don't give a fuck. Like, they truly don't care, and it makes my heart so happy.
Yeah, the next season has a guy on it called Jamali Maddox, who's a friend of mine, and I cannot wait to see him on it.
Wait, this is the next season that hasn't been aired yet?
No, it's not been aired yet. They've just announced the cast, and it's a really, really good one. I love it. I think it's one of the best shows in the world. It's so good.
I mean, it's been my medicine for getting through everything that's happened over the last year. And I love it so much. And I want to talk to everyone that's on it, but I'm also so intimidated by everyone that's on it. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, I'm going to ask you some of the questions I ask every single guest that's on our podcast. So we'll be right back with more Not Too Deep.
Not too deep with Grace Helbig.
Hello, listeners. Grace Helbig here, wanting to say two things. A big thank you for listening to the podcast. If you're a regular listener, if this is your first time listening, welcome and thank you. And second thing, if you are enjoying yourself here in this not too deep world we've built and you'd like to leave us a review, that would be so wonderful. If you can go to the iTunes store, the App Store, and leave us a lovely little review, comment. How are you feeling? Good, bad, otherwise? Maybe just good or otherwise would be appreciated. Other than that, enjoy the podcast. Okay, do you knit? Is this what I saw? Are you a knitter?
Yes. Yeah, okay. I'm a big knitter.
How'd this happen? This is big news. I've been trying to get into knitting. It started last February for a very brief moment. And then I'm like looking at old yarn and knitting needles in the corner of my office. But yeah, how'd this happen?
Toxic masculinity, believe it or not. My best friend and the guy that supports me on tour is a comedian called Kai Humphreys. Yeah. And we've been friends for like 10 years. And we spend all of our time together on tour. And we have toured together for like 7 years. And we were very, very drunk. I think it was one New Year. And we were the last people standing as well, like when it came to drinking. So it's just me and him drunkenly over a table, just being like, I'm so much better than you are at everything. And he's just like, nah, man, I'm way better than you at everything. I'm like, and it's just two toxic men just spewing bile onto each other. And eventually we were like, look, there's only one way to. His argument was, he was like, I said, I'm more talented at things. I'm naturally good at things. And he was like, yes, but I put more effort into things and I've got more commitment. And that's why you're better at the start, but I'll always surpass you. And it's a really heated but fun debate.
I would have loved to overhear that. I would have loved to know the frenzied energy of arguments that were happening.
Two whiskey drunk men just off. And I'll tell you another thing that you're shit at.
That's friendship. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we decided that we find a level playing field. We find a thing that neither of us had done before or could do, and we'd have a year to see who could get better at it and who was the best at it.
Wow.
And we settled on knitting. And then it very quickly stopped being a competition, and because we had a bet against each other. We had to knit each other a Christmas sweater by Christmas. So I had to knit him one and he had to knit me one. And then we put it to a vote on both of our Instagrams to find out who became the best knitter within a year.
Wow. Yeah. That's obviously the only way to settle, truly explosive, toxic masculinity.
Yeah, but it turned into the most wholesome thing as well, because we were very public about what we were doing. And the knitting community, it's just the sweetest people in the world. Like,
that's how I imagine them. It's really nice to know that that's true.
But like, there was when I was I went over to Australia and I was doing I just started doing the knitting as well. So I was doing a TV show over there called The Project, where they were just interviewing me, and I was knitting while on the interview. And then the next day I went into a wool shop in Sydney, and the woman, and this is like an 80-year-old woman behind the counter. Old people hate my comedy. I swear too much. I'm very rude. I'm young. I'm vibrant. I'm not for them.
Yeah, you're dangerous to them. Yeah.
Yeah. But this 80-year-old woman behind this, still in this wool shop, was like, "Oh, you're the boy on television who was knitting last night." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is the purest level of fame I've ever encountered." Just all these. She was like, "I'll give you some free needles." I'm like, "No, I'm glad. I'm here to support the community."
That is so sweet. That usually people are buying you drinks at a bar, and this woman's like, "Here's some free needles."
Here's some free needles, which means something different in Scotland, but
I bet.
Stories.
Yeah. That's so pure. So obviously you still knit. Has this now become like a genuine hobby for you?
Well, it did. I sort of went off it because that was the year that we also did the really, really long tour. So I lost the love a little bit just because I was losing my mind. But we managed to get it both. We managed to get it both done. He won the competition. His sweater was way better. He knit in a full pattern.
Wow.
Like a full logo. He'd done it himself on a spreadsheet, worked out all the stuff, and mine was an abomination that looked like something the Grinch would wear. But he still wore it on Christmas.
That's fantastic. Well, he proved his point that, you might be naturally better at things, but he's going to put in the time.
He did. He beat me on that. Because I gave up. I was like, yeah, you're right. I've stopped kidding. But I got drunk last week, and I promised someone that I'd knit them a scarf. So I've just bought some wool today, and the needles arrive tomorrow, and I'm going to get back. Because if I'm going to be in quarantine for 2 weeks when I go to Australia, so might as well knit a scarf. If
you're gonna pick up a neurotic habit that isn't harmful, it feels like knitting is the way to go.
Oh, it's very
therapeutic.
Mindful.
Yeah,
it really is, because it's like your hands are busy,
right?
And it sort of allows your mind to wander a little bit, but it's something to focus on. I am looking forward to getting back into it.
I feel like this could become a bigger part of your brand. I'm just saying. I feel like there's an opportunity for your merch tables to have hand knit hats and things at it during your shows. I'm just spitballing.
It takes a while to knit a hat, though. I'd be charging like £1,000 for a very shit hat.
It just took me 4 weeks, please. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask you the two questions that I ask every single guest that is on the podcast with us. And the first one is, who, alive or dead, would you most like to throw cold spaghetti at?
Oh.
Yeah. And see, I interpret this question as your answer can change on a daily basis. It's truly just who in this moment, on this day, in this hour that appeals to you.
Would I love to? Probably my fiance. I just reckon. I've got nothing against her. I love her dearly, but it just sounds like something that would annoy her, and that's very funny to me.
It's not hurtful. It's not necessarily harmful, but it does send a message.
But I'd be so curious as to what her reaction is. It wouldn't be a spiteful thing. I wouldn't be like, "That's for you," but just genuinely for me. To know her inside and out, how would she react to an unprovoked spaghetti tossing?
I mean, that's how you really get to know each other in a relationship.
Because she's allowed to,
Yeah,
she's allowed to be mad, but she can't be furious. It can't be. If she's like, "That's us over," I'm like, "Well, that's fine," because that's.
Wow, that was your trigger. I had no idea, so I guess I'm glad I found out now.
We've got it soon, but also if I just threw it in her face and she just let it sort of land there and then slide off and said nothing, then equally terrifying.
Yeah, that's a you problem after that.
Yeah.
Okay, the other question I ask every single guest is to tell us your worst pants shitting story, but But you can only use 3 words or 3 small phrases or like a combination of that. So, for example, mine is college, jogging, front lawn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mine's,
And based on the amount of traveling that you do and the amount of alcohol intake you do, I assume you have some stories.
I do. Okay. I'm going to say this. Wait, not one word.
So
phrases.
you can use 3 words or you can use like small phrases.
Okay. At home.
Okay.
Besides a friend.
Yeah.
And twice.
Oh, wow. And this is still a friend in your world?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He didn't know.
Oh.
I shat myself twice in front of him. And both times he didn't notice. Not only did he not notice I'd shat myself twice, he didn't notice the change of like jammy bottoms twice.
Oh, wait. So you changed clothes. This wasn't like, I can sit in this and then I actually can't sit in this.
No, that was the first one. Trusted a fart, shat myself. He went, that stinks. And I was like, oh, I better go and I need a shit. So go to the toilet. Change into a different pair of jammy bottoms. Come upstairs. Thank God he's a man, because he obviously doesn't take in any of the costume change. Doesn't phase him. Doesn't process it. I sit back down beside him. We start playing FIFA again. I, having forgotten the last 10 fucking minutes, trust a fart again, re-shit myself. And then have to excuse myself to go to the bathroom again, where I, on a second time, change my jammies and come back up when he doesn't notice again. So much so that I had to bring it up to him for the first time 2 weeks ago. We were having a conversation. I was like, I have to ask, do you know I shat myself twice in front of you? And he was like, no. And I'm like, you don't know. And he had no idea.
I don't know if your friend needs to like go to a doctor and like get his senses checked in some capacity.
I don't know.
I love that you're playing FIFA the whole time. You know, that game is very exciting. And so it will trigger some things in the body if you're not prepared for it. Good thing you had extra jammy bottoms on hand. But I mean, at that point, you just needed a fucking tarp. Okay. Before we take our next break, we're testing out this new segment called Deep or Hot. So you get an option to either answer a deep question or give us a hot take on something in your world that might be bothering you. So would you like deep or hot?
Deep.
Deep. Okay, here we go. I have a deep question for you. And you can answer this as shallow as you want.
Right.
Do you feel like you've been a good son?
Oh, God. Wow. Fucking hell. Now you've got me right between the eyes. You've no idea how often this question plays on my mind. Yes, I do. I do think but I know I could have been better.
Oh.
And I know I could be better.
Oh.
I definitely take my parents for granted sometimes, but I do. They do know I love them, and they know how much I love them. So it's
That's very sweet. Yeah, it's. Basically, knowing you through only what I've gleaned from the internet, you seem like you've put in your time. You seem like you guys have a mutual respect for each other.
Yeah, my parents are good. And, when they're old and decrepit, it'll be me, to hold the pillow over their faces just for that final personal touch.
Personally knit blanket just gently over the eyes.
There it is, yeah.
Okay, we're going to take one last break. When we get back, we have some user-submitted questions that I would love to hear your advice on. So we'll be right back with more Not Too Deep.
Not too deep with Grace Helbig.
All right. Daniel, let's get into some questions submitted. This is our first go at this, so there's no expectations.
Good. And I'll set a very low bar for all next guests as well.
Thank you. I don't want the bar to get off the floor at any point. But this is a question that was submitted that I think you might have like maybe a personal relationship with in some regard. This person says, my name is Liz, and I've dropped out of college twice, and I'm starting to think it's not for me. I just don't know what to do professionally instead, and I'm kind of lost. Any advice would be great. Now, you took a gap year, right?
Kind of, yeah. Like because I started stand up and it was going well, and I got into university. I decided to like delay uni by a year to focus on stand up, and then had it not worked out, I would have gone to uni.
Okay.
So my gap year actually just involved sitting. My mum would wake me up every morning at like 8:30, drag me downstairs. And she works from home, so she'd sit me on the other side of her office, and she was like, "Look, this is your job. You've got to treat it like a job. Like I know it's fun."
Wow.
So I mean, advice. If college or university is not for you, it's not for you. And I think that's good to know that it's not for you. Don't force yourself down a path that you don't want to go down, because then you'll just be left with options that you don't want to choose from. How to find what you want to do. That's all on you.
Yeah, that's incredibly difficult to assume someone's interests. However, I do think, so this person dropped out of college twice now. I think you have to kind of like listen to your instincts a bit. And if it doesn't feel right, you don't need to keep pursuing it. Also, I assume that like school will always be there. Is there a part of you that ever wants to go back to school?
Oh, would love to. I was good for like 2 months during the original lockdown. I joined like an online course thing where I was studying American history for about 2 months, and then I sort of then comedy came back for a bit, so I completely forgot about my studies. But yeah, I'd love to get a degree in something, just because my parents are academics, so I always sort of feel like I'm just short of that.
Yeah, that they'll always have that over you, no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another question that is all about sliding into DMs. So I'm curious what your advice for this person will be. They say, this is probably a weird question, but I've been working more as an actress. I've slowly gotten more people I'm a fan of following me back on Instagram. A comedian that I've liked and followed for a few years followed me back not long ago, and I kind of want to make a connection since I do love their work. I also have a little crush, but I don't want to be weird. Can you tell I'm self-conscious? Have you ever slid into the DMs of someone who followed you back? Is there an etiquette to it? Should I just not do it? Am I being a creep? Help. It's interesting. Right? I mean, I don't know what
It's also always dangerous sliding into a male comedian's DMs.
That is 100% for sure. But also just sliding into the DMs of anyone that you like respect on any level. My inherent imposter syndrome mixed with just like overarching anxiety keeps me constantly second guessing, reaching out to anyone about anything. However, I do think that there is value in doing that. Have you slid into the DMs of any comedians or people in entertainment?
No, terrifies me. Same with you. The imposter syndrome. Even when celebrities follow me back, all I do is go, "Oh my God," privately to myself, and then I never talk to them. Like Ricky Gervais followed me 4 years ago, and he still needed to get his he was so nice enough to ask me on his podcast 2 years ago, but like they were like, just message him on. Ricky says that you have his contact details. Just contact him. And I was like, no, I don't want to intrude, so I wouldn't possibly. Yeah, so I'm terrible to ask for this advice.
Well, let's say you had to, what do you think the etiquette would be? What's like this, if you were telling a friend of yours to take this leap, not you, let's take you out of the equation, how would you tell them to do it? Go in, be sort of nice and friendly, introduce yourself. Don't send anything too long. Yeah. Like don't give them a fucking essay to read. Right.
Try and get in contact with them. If they engage back, then you're allowed to engage. If they don't engage back, then don't pester them. And then also I would establish early on, it's just, you got to remember, DM sliding means different things to different people. So you may be sliding into a DM being like, I'm coming in here for a business opportunity. And that might be what somebody else calls their dick. So make sure that you establish boundaries and expectations of what the DM sliding is.
For every man that called their dick a BO, a business opportunity, I would have so much change.
Of the smell.
No, it's truly like, I've also been watching a lot of this show Alone. I don't know if you guys have that over there, where it's basically like they drop people in the wilderness and then they have to like survive.
My God, how is that show legal?
I know. I'm like, this person's health will never be the same. These are irreversible issues that is happening to their body right now.
They're out there for like 4 days, and then one of them finally catches a squirrel, and he's starving. But like the squirrel has some
weeping. Yeah,
but he's got some sort of worms in his intestines, and you're like, I've got a full meal, and then 4 minutes later, he's writhing on a walkie-talkie, being like, it's over for me. Like,
I couldn't do it.
I have no idea how we ever became a species. Watching people do that, I'm like, it just seems impossible.
But the analogy I'm trying to make is that like trapping, you have to kind of approach DMs in that sense of like, you have to, like you said, put out a little like bait for someone of like, are they interested in having a conversation? But then also learn the animal that you're trapping. Learn if it's sick in the belly or not.
Yeah. Don't eat it. It might have worms on the inside.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's all the advice I have for anyone sliding into someone else's DMs. Is watch the show Alone and then use that to help you out. Okay, Daniel, we're reaching the end of the podcast. This has been so much fun. Before you go, we like to give a little gift to all of our guests, and we have a personalized horoscope for you. I don't know if you're into astrology at all. But you don't have to be, because this is not accurate. So Melissa has just sent it to you in the chat if you'd like to read your horoscope aloud.
Dear Virgo, maiden of the stars, time management will be of great concern as your ambitions in family, love, and world collide into 2021. Check in with your schedule, ambitious Virgo. God, this is just taunting me. And make sure you have enough time to break up all the remaining relationships in the world.
There's still time. You just got to manage it.
That's excellent.
Daniel, this has been so fun. Where can people find you? Where can they get tickets to shows that are coming up? Where can they get into your business?
If you've never seen my stand-up before, start on Netflix, Daniel Sloss. I've got 2 shows on there, Dark and Jigsaw. If you don't like those, then don't go any further. That's where your and me's relationship ends. I mean, if you did enjoy those shows, you can then check out my special X on HBO. I've got a book coming out later on this year called Everyone You Hate Is Going to Die. And I'm also on tour. Just go to danielsloss.com.
Sweet. Is your book available for pre-order now? Like, can people go?
You can go onto Amazon right now and you can pre-order Everyone You Hate Is Going to Die by Daniel Sloss.
Can you give us just a little like log line? What's the book about?
It's about.
I think I can, glean from the title a little bit, but
yeah, it's a positive book. It's a happy book. It's about all the different types of relationships that we have in our lives and how they affect us as we grow. But it's also mainly just me ranting and talking shite for 10 chapters.
I love it. Well, guys, go pre-order the book. If you are in the countries that Daniel will be, go to the shows, and otherwise follow him on social media to see how the knitting is going. Quite frankly, will be checking in on that. And thank you so much, Daniel. This was so fun.
Thanks very much for having me.
Of course. We'll see you guys next time on another episode of Not Too Deep. Goodbye.
Too deep, too deep, too deep, not too deep with Grace Helbig.
Not Too Deep is a production of Grace Helbig Incorporated, producer Melissa D. Montz, edited by Shireen Lani Yunus, post-production sound by Chris Henry, and an extra special thanks to Flula for the theme music.